Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the T&T Podcast. As always, it's your boy Tyler Layfield, joined by my co-host Torrez Finney. Torrez, how you doing, my man?
What's up, Tyler? Happy to be here, baby. Yes, sir. Just got and coming off a win. Hey, we always happy to be back, baby. Let's go.
Yes, sir. And today we also are bringing in good friend of the show, Jackson Caudell, our Georgia Tech Sports Illustrated writer. We had to bring him on after the big weekend, ain't that right, Jackson?
That's right, man. When it hasn't happened a lot over the years, but I feel it's going to start happening a lot more soon, and we got to catch it early.
Yes, correct. So, Torres, you've already alluded to it. Coming off of a fight, going to Dana White's Contender Series this past week. I definitely tuned into it. I've rewatched it since. Just taking this in and getting your reaction here. I just want to hear a little bit about your experience overall. Some people, we could choose to look at it as optimistically, or we can choose to look at it as the negativity of it. So obviously, right now you're in good spirits. It seems like you're happy for a win. But overall, what was your reaction to everything? How was your experience overall in Vegas?
Oh man, the experience was phenomenal. It's great to have my family, my coaches, team. I had a lot of guys from Agogi there. They was there to support. There was a jiu-jitsu tournament in Vegas, big time, ADCC and CJI, really big in the jiu-jitsu community. So that's like the Super Bowl of jiu-jitsu, ADCC. So that was huge to be there in Vegas during that time. Vegas was, as always packed, always active. And yeah, man, everything went really good from the weight cut to the weigh-ins, rehydrating, everything went like as planned. Obviously, going into the fight, obviously, there I would say, and in any fight for me, I've never had a perfect fight. I feel like I come close to one, and I think that was Dorsey and Savannah into 2022.
It was a good
But that's
fight.
that's probably my closest I can ever say I've had a perfect fight. But I've never had a perfect fight, and we always strive to have the perfect fight, but it just never happens. And um, I went against a solid opponent. I mean, I've said it here on the show. I've said it in multiple interviews. He does pose his problems, and obviously, you don't know a lot of things about a guy until you actually get in the cage. And I feel like that's a big case with me. It's like a lot of times guys don't really know how they're going to really fight me until they actually see me. And with him, he was a lot longer than I expected. The guy,
No kid.
I know they list him at 6'2", but he's every bit of 6'4" to 6'5". He is very,
No
very
kid.
tall.
Yeah, we were looking at that. And we're like, dude, it looks like at least a foot. It was
Yeah,
wild, man. The difference
that
between
brother's
y'all's two. Like
really,
it did not, like you said, it did not look like 6'2".
yeah, that brother was really, really tall. And he was really good on the ground at utilizing his length to his advantage.
No kid.
Um, and he just posed some problems, but it was nothing that we ever didn't expect. I mean, everything that he did, even the problems that he did pose, we expected. So it is what it is. It's a fight. That's
Yeah.
that's how I try to explain to people, man. It's a fight. It's just like a game. You can have the perfect game plan. You think the score is going to be 35-0? No, they're going to do some good things. They're going to have some good play. I mean, he's trained for 12 weeks just for me, the same way I trained 12 weeks just for him. Obviously, there's going to be things that go back and forth, and things going to happen. So, you know, um, was I excited about the overall performance? Would I say that's a great performance? No, not necessarily, but it was a good performance, and the performance was good enough, obviously, to get the win and get the W. So, yeah, there was some things I definitely could do better on, but I was happy about a lot of the things that I did within the fight, and yeah, got the win. Yeah, bloody nose on the interview. I love that. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool, and yeah, I didn't obviously going towards the announcement, obviously with Dana White making his comments. It is what it is in that situation. I mean, yes, he said um, one that I would get decimated in the UFC. I vastly disagree with that. Based off,
Strong words.
Strong.
uh,
Agree.
yeah. He had to actually go and select that one. That's funny.
Yeah.
But I obviously I disagree with that because I've went with a lot of UFC guys. I mean, anybody that's trained and obviously anybody that's watched me fight, they know that's not true. Especially if you watch anything on the UFC programs. If you think I'll be decimated, is actually absolutely false. Yes, are there guys that could beat me right now? Yeah.
Of
Yeah,
course.
if you throw me in the top 15, the top 10 off the back, but you're not going to do that. There's guys
That
at the
wouldn't be
bottom
how
of the
they do it.
division. Exactly. That wouldn't be the way to go. There's a lot of guys at the bottom of the division that I know for a fact that I would beat. Um, but I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is in that situation. Two, no, I wasn't necessarily mad at what he was saying. I stated already in another interview what he said a little bit was flawed. I'm I'm going to say the fact that
It's a good
I
way to
think
put it.
because he has so big of a company, it's hard for him to know everything that goes on within the company. And anybody that knows, obviously I haven't went out publicly all the way, but I have went on, a few interviews past few days. I was supposed to be selected to be on the Ultimate Fighter. Um, he told me, they went a different route. Won't go all the way into details why, but they went a different route, and that negated me from having extra fights. So for him to say go and get more fights, I think that's a little bit flawed. And then two, I don't make the decision to be on the contender series. I can't choose to be on there. Like y'all offered me the contract, and plus I was offered the contract to be on the contender series though 4 weeks before I fought the fight in May. So I actually didn't have to fight that fight in May. I could have just fought straight on the contender series back
Mm-hmm.
to back and would have had no fights. And that literally, I mean, how can you tell me that's my fault when you offer me the contract? So,
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff is a little bit inconsistent, but it is what it is in that situation. And plus, no worries on my end because one, I'm undefeated, 9-0. I've beaten a lot of really good fighters. I'm only going to keep getting better. Again, I've only been doing this for 4 years. I'm going to continue to keep getting better. I mean, the guy just fought. I mean, heck, Cam has literally been fighting for over 10 years. So like you got guys that's had double digits of the time span that I've been here. They're doubling my time. And yet I'm
Yeah.
still going out there and dominating. So there's a lot of positives to look at. Obviously, there's some things that I can correct, but it is what it is in that situation, and we still have a lot of big things on the horizon. So definitely been getting hit up a lot. So we'll see.
Yeah, another thing that goes into the thinking of when he tells you, when he brought up, I told you to go get more fights. You got to think about it. Like you said, you brought up the Ultimate Fighter thing. You still ended up taking the fight where you went viral for your knockout. Another thing that over the years has been a frustration point that I know you brought up is guys. They talk about wanting to fight, but then the contract comes and things get thought about, and then they back out. That's something once again that's out of your control, right?
Yeah, that's out of my control. I mean, people got to understand it's not easy for me to find fights.
No.
Look, I mean, I don't really want to like really talk about myself, but I'm a hard matchup for a lot of guys. It
Yeah.
just my style is just a hard matchup to beat. So a lot of guys isn't going to take that risk unless they're willing to, especially for the pay. So on the regional scenes to fight me, it's like okay. Now, granted, I have a few sponsors that are willing to throw some bank out
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
to
Make
give
it
me
worth
a
their
fight.
while.
Yeah,
Potentially. Potentially.
yeah.
It
But
might cover
certain
the
guys,
medical bills.
that's true. But certain guys don't want to take that fight. Obviously, for record purposes, like if you're another regional guy, they're not going to obviously take that fight against me because they don't want to hurt their chances of making it to a bigger promotion. So, um, it is what it is in that category. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on within the fight game that obviously don't ever get brought to the light, but it's more than just saying yes and no and like signing a contract and saying I'm willing to fight. There's a lot of other things that's go along with that. So, yeah, like I said, we're gonna definitely continue to keep chugging forward, and we definitely have a lot of opportunities ahead.
Yeah, I see that we got a good bit of people here, joining us live. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the comments. They might get thrown up on the screen. Another thing I want to get brought up, you talked about the height difference. He looked everything 6'4". It definitely showed in the length of his legs, and I feel like how frustrated were you whenever you would get him down to the ground and what do you call it, butterfly? What do you call that
Butterfly,
right there?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, but
man. I feel like that was just it was just staving you off. Like every time you would get him down, like the length of his legs just made it really difficult for you. I feel like how frustrating was that to you mid fight? With that because I felt like at times maybe something that could and don't let me put words in your mouth if this isn't true, but at times toward the end especially you were trying to make up for that lost time of trying to get that by trying to get those slams and exerting all that energy, and I feel like we saw that later on. But how difficult of a matchup did he really pose for you, especially with the length?
the length definitely caused problems on the ground a little.
Mm-hmm.
It was more the fact that what was really cool was his head coach Behrman, who's the head coach of Israel Adesanya, the head coach of City Kickboxing, and a lot of those really good guys that come out of there. He came in the cage and was like, "Man, y'all had a really good game plan," because as I saw on film, Cam was really good at utilizing the cage to get back up to his feet. My
He
goal
really did.
was to, as you saw in the fight, when I would take him down, he would like nearly bear crawl or butt scoot really
All the
hard
way
to the
back.
cage,
All the way back.
all the way back, because he knew that was his best chance of getting up. If you saw my takedowns were trying to take him to the middle because I knew he was a solid cage grappler. So I was like, well, let me put him in the middle and make it harder, which you saw he struggled immense. I mean, he didn't even get up. He never ever got up.
It was evident, yeah.
So I was doing my best at trying to pass guard while he was doing his best at just at least trying to hold guard and minimize damage while he gave himself enough time to eventually get back to the cage. So it's a chess match within the chess match on like how you play that. Yes, there were things that I made mistakes on once I got there. I had opportunities to do certain things. I just didn't capitalize as fast as I wanted to. And I think sometimes I give people a little bit too much respect in areas that I don't necessarily need to. But, props to him, man. Props to him with what he was doing. Solid game plan. I mean, he was hoping that he was really banking on to outlast me. But you can definitely tell he was taking it himself. And I said, we were talking about that in campus. Like, if your goal is to try to outlast me, then you're going to actually, it's not going to be too good because you're going to be working really, really hard to not get finished or not to be advanced on. And since he's working really, really hard, he was just as tired as I was in the third himself. So,
yes, his hands were on his knees. I noticed that, like, before the third round started. Mm-hmm. And, he was definitely getting worn. It felt like at times he was playing not to lose. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I was kind of interpreting it. It looked like he was just doing the small things just to not lose in that moment, if that makes sense. And that's not a crack on him. To be honest with you, he's been one of the better ones I've seen go against you as far as getting up after those takedowns. I mean, wouldn't you be able to say that so yourself?
Yeah, he's got up the most ever. I mean, we've always said I never want to have that many takedowns in a fight. I mean, I have the record for the most takedowns on Dana White Contender Series history, but I don't want that record. Like, I want to take you down one, maybe two times, and I want to finish you. I don't want you ever getting up. I want to finish you once I get you there. But he did a really good job of keep getting up, and 11 times. See, what guys understand is like that's a lot of takedowns, and that's a lot of energy being exerted. And it's not, that's gonna, even I'll do that type of training when I'm trying to prepare for cardio within fighting. But I'm not, when I'm literally just, training, like game planning, the game plan is literally planned to only get minimal amount of takedowns and work towards the finish. He just did a lot of good things, which guess what? It made me restart. So, to have 11 takedowns in a fight, that's actually pretty solid. I know that people want to say fast, but to keep doing that, that's actually really exhausting.
That's what I was going to say. Because a lot of people had stuff to say about you afterwards, like in the post fight, interview. You were real, breathing heavy after, and obviously, rightfully so. You exerted a lot of energy. Every time you picked him up, I'm just like, God dang, that's gonna cost it like a lot of energy right there. I told my dad today. Dad, I told you I was talking to Dad. Dad was like, well, man, he was so give out, and I was like. My wife asked me just to turn the mattress around last night, just to put the foot of the bed to the head and the head to the foot. I told her I was tired after that. Like, I can't imagine picking up a 200-pound dude, dumping him left and right like that. So that had to have played a part, right? And then Jacob said, did Torrez bust his nose early? I couldn't tell at first, but I thought he connected with a right.
Yes, when he threw the kick, the first actual connection when he threw the kick, and I came over the top with a right. It landed clean, but it didn't land obviously enough to just really land flush. Yes, it busted his nose open. So he was bleeding in round one. That's what was also giving me confidence how quick some of the damage he had. I could tell him feeling certain damage, and I gotta continue to feel that. Like I can tell the fear within him a little bit going like throughout the fight. And I think I like giving him confidence as he continue to have success of getting back up. That's the reason why you got to take that confidence away early from them. Don't allow them to gain it because he was trying to gain confidence a little bit in the third. Plus, in that third, he's like, I'm down 2 rounds. I got to do anything I can. So, I gave him a little bit too much confidence. But, I did bust his nose open early in the first round.
Yeah, overall, came out with the win. And one other little critique I had when they announced the decision, This is only the second time Torrez has been. He's had a fight taken to a decision. The only other time being against TK Mattress, and I remember you were pretty wore out after that too, but not to this extent. This was TK was good at that time for the level you were at that given moment, but this dude whole nother level. But they gave Cam Ralston the third round in the decision, and when we heard that, Dad and I just looked. We're like, what? Like I don't know. To me, Torres. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. He had over 11 minutes of control time. Had 11 of 18 takedowns. Yeah, he didn't land as many significant strikes, but it wasn't by that wide of a margin.
No, it was only about
What
like
what what do you think was the reasoning behind giving him that third round?
I'm gonna be honest with you. It reminded me a lot. I don't know if anybody saw the Bilal Muhammad versus Leon Edwards fight. Bilal obviously dominated the fight, but that fifth round, Bilal Muhammad got reversed in the final 30 seconds, and Leon Edwards cut him open with an elbow. And all three judges gave Leon Edwards, even though he got dominated for
You
4
gotta be
minutes,
kidding
30
me.
seconds, because of the damage that was caused by that
Oh
elbow.
my God!
All three
Because your lip
judges,
was bleeding a little bit, they're gonna give him a
because
round.
my nose got busted. So I think
Yeah,
because of that
whatever.
damage from that elbow he hit me with, I think
Ridiculous.
because of that they gave him the third round. But I don't know how
Ridiculous.
he won that third round at all. I really don't.
Doesn't make
Besides
sense.
that, it doesn't make sense because I was a little mad about. As crazy as I was more mad about that. I was like, I'm
Yeah,
thinking, okay, 30-27 all the way through.
yeah.
I'm here at 29-28. Now I knew. I said, I
Hold
know for a
up.
fact I won round one, and then
What?
like round two, I always tell myself if there's ever a round where I don't feel like I've completely won it, I automatically say I lost. So I was really like the second round, I knew I landed good shots and did a lot of good things. But I don't know why I felt like I didn't know if I won round two yet. I don't know. I just felt pretty 50-50 on that. It's
Mm,
crazy. I was more confident I won round three than I won round two.
that's wild. That's
But
wild.
obviously, but it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
got the decision win, man. 9-0. I mean, people don't understand as a professional fighter, especially in the MMA world, so many people would love. Dude, I don't think you understand how many people would love to be in the position that I am. I'm
For
blessed to
real.
be here. The 9-0 as a professional in MMA is really hard to get to, man. I'm one win away from being 10-0, double digit with no losses. That is so hard to do in MMA.
At
Um,
your age.
and that as well at 25 is rare. It don't usually happen. So, I'm definitely taking advantage of what I'm doing. Plus, especially how young I started in this game. I've
Mm-hmm.
never lost as an amateur, and I never lost as a pro. And I tell people it's not because of the fact that I've never lost, but it's more the fact that I dealt with adversity throughout from wrestling. I dealt with adversity throughout from football. So it's like I know how it feels to lose, especially in wrestling, in an individual sport. So it's
Yeah.
not. And then I lost my amateur boxing match. So I know
Yeah.
how it feels to lose in a combative sport. It's just, now we continue to evolve, we continue to keep getting better, and we continue to try our best to be better than our opponent on that night. And
Yeah.
yeah, anything can happen. Anybody can land a lucky punch, anybody can land anything, but we continue to make sure we stay to our game plan and we stick to what we do. I mean, I'm going to continue to keep getting better. I said this last year, I said this year, regardless whether I got that contract or whether I didn't get that contract, I'm never going to stay the same. I'm always going to work to be better. So
Yes, you did.
I felt like I fought better in that fight than last year. I don't agree with the fact that last year's fight um, was better than this year. I mean, yeah, the finish, but I literally sit on the feet with a two-time king of the ring, Muay Thai kickboxer that was really good and highly talented. So,
Yeah.
I did some things that I usually probably wouldn't go for, but because of the purpose of the show, I did some things to try to nullify how I would actually fight sometimes because I understand the purpose of the
Some of
show.
those late pickups, maybe.
Yes, like there's a lot of
I
things.
kind of tell. I kind of could tell because at that moment, what's going through your head is I got to do something in this short amount of time to really make an impression, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
don't want and I don't want to be. And that's what I'm saying. I've been in sports all my life. It's always been about winning. Like let's go
yeah.
win.
This it's just a different ball game. Like it's a little
It
bit of a
is.
there's more pageantry involved in that. It's you have to make a a spectacle in a sense for you to kind of win the contract. Jacob brought up a good question here. If there was one thing you could have done different, what would it have been?
Definitely been a lot more aggressive in positions. I had a lot of different positions where would usually be my finishing position. I was like halfway towards certain finishing positions, and I don't know what it was that just held me back from. I don't know going. I don't know. It makes me mad when I watch the film. We watched the film, me and my coaches,
I
and
believe
there
it.
were just certain positions that I know that I would go for and finish a guy, and it's just
Hindsight's 2020 every time.
hindsight is 2020. You know, again, we gonna learn from that. You know, we learn
Yeah,
from every fight, man. We literally learn
you
from every
do.
fight. So, and I felt like I started off patient, a little bit too patient. We're gonna definitely switch that around a little bit. Because I was just trying to be smart on how I come out. When you got another cerebral guy on the other side, because he's very,
Got to
detailed
kind of feel him out a little bit.
got to feel him out a little bit, especially when you get these amount of fights now in my career. I'm at that point in my career where, again, everybody's gonna be. I have to be mindful. I have to be smart how I approach it. So, um, I mean, it is what it is. It's like I just got to be
Yeah.
smart on how I do things, and we're just gonna continue to keep getting better at it.
Last thing I got for you, and feel free to be safe with how you say this. So what's next?
Well, obviously, we everybody wants to know what's next, but hopefully in the coming weeks there should be something really good coming out soon. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know really what's next.
Yeah,
We're gonna talk to my management team.
there you
They
go.
got some things really cooking up, so we'll see. And yeah, look, God closes one door, but He definitely opens up another. So
Amen.
it's a blessing, and I'm excited. I'm excited for the future.
Yes, sir. All right. So on to the next segment here. Jackson, we got you on here for a reason, man. Yesterday, college football began. We had some college football back, and the big game of the day was at noon. It was Georgia Tech going against Florida State. Your Georgia Tech that you write for at Sports Illustrated. Take us through what you saw in this game, the highs, the lows, and how you think Georgia Tech was able to pull off this upset.
I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, look, I picked Tech to win. I thought it was going to be a lower scoring game. It was all going to come down to the line of scrimmage, like a lot of games do, but this one really was. Like, Florida State has been, like, I know ESPN's Pete Thamel called them the best defensive line in the country and said they got 4 top 100 picks on there. Like, whether you believe that or not going in, they are talented.
Uh-huh.
And they are a huge offensive line and are experienced. And I don't think I need to tell anybody how bad Georgia Tech's defense was last year. Like it was pretty good. So the thought was, okay, if Florida State's just going to dominate on the ground, control the game on the line of scrimmage with their offensive and defensive lines, like they'll wrap things up, run for like 200 something yards. But that wasn't the case at all. Like I mean, Georgia Tech, like, they whooped them on the line of scrimmage. There's no other way I think you can put it. Like this, there was nothing fluky about it. It wasn't like Florida State held them to like 200 yards and they just lucked out a win because of turnovers. No, Tech nearly averaged 6 yards a carry, nearly got 200 yards rushing, and they pushed them around a lot. Like you could see it from the very first play of the game. Jamal Haynes breaks a big run, and just big holes were being created the whole time. Another stat, if you had told me going in, I don't know if I believed it, even though I picked Tech to win. Georgia Tech had 7 tackles for loss. Florida State had 3. I mean, I don't remember Patrick Payton's name being called.
No,
Marvin
it wasn't.
Jr. was absent. Josh Farmer, Daryl Jackson, all these guys that were touted as high-end NFL picks, like they were just nowhere to be found. And like Tech just want to run the football more than anything. Like it's not an option team. But they are going to want to pound the football. And a lot of the time, like go back to the Georgia game last year, they didn't throw the ball around a ton. Like they really just wanted to run right at you and then set that up. But yeah, that's how the game was won. And you're exactly right. Like the way they've talked about Romello Height all fall camp was that they think he can be as good as Keon White was a couple of years ago. For those who don't know who he is, he was picked in the 2nd round by the Patriots. And he was an athletic freak too. Romello Height,
What position is that?
defensive end.
Okay.
Like the defensive line, they have really loved all fall camp. Every time we talked to Brent Key, he's like, I mean, our offensive line is getting kind of worked. And like, I didn't know if that was coach speak or if it was just, him hyping him up. But like, I don't know. It may be. Like, I don't think it's like top of the ACC or anything. It's a whole lot better than what it was a year ago. And look, after that first drive, I was kind of like, oh man, is this just, has anything improved? And that's another thing I want to get into that I think has really flown under the radar. I wrote about it way back in March. So Georgia Tech went out and hired Tyler Santucci as the new defensive coordinator. For y'all that don't know who he was at Duke these past couple of years. They had the number one scoring defense in the ACC. Now, a lot of people just give Mike Elko the credit, and he obviously deserves a ton. I mean, he's at Texas A&M for a reason. But Santucci's a really good coach, and he proved it yesterday. They got Jess Simpson, who's been a defensive line coach at Miami. He was with him at Duke. He coached the Atlanta Falcons for a little bit. The coaching is on a completely different level on the defensive side of the football. And again, I don't think they're going to be a top 25 defense or something all of a sudden. But if you can only go up from where you were last year. If they can be top 50, top 60, and the offense doesn't drop off, I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to get too far ahead of anything, but they just beat the highest ranked team or the highest ranked ACC opponent on their schedule. I mean, their two toughest games the rest of the way are non-conference games, Georgia and Notre Dame. Again, we'll see what happens, but it's hard if you don't cheer for Georgia Tech or interested in Georgia Tech, not being impressed with what happened yesterday. I mean, holding Florida State to under 300 yards. And the thing is, we all knew going in that DJU, he is what he is. We all three of us here have watched DJU play for 4 years.
He is who we thought he was.
Exactly. The receivers, that's reportedly been a problem all fall camp. I was not scared of Florida State's receivers. I thought Georgia Tech just flat out was better across the board than them on offense. But if Tech's defense didn't improve and was not able to stop the run, Florida State has to be dominant on the ground game if they want to win football games this year. If they're not, they're going to have a hard time beating a lot of teams just because with this receiving core, DJU, they're just not going to be able to throw the football. So.
Yeah. So do you think this was more of a product of Georgia Tech being very competent, or was this just Florida State really just not being as great as what we thought? What do you think? Or was it a mix of both?
I think it is a mix of both, but I will give a little bit more credit to Tech here because they were this good last year. I think that's what a lot of people – I don't know that many people –
Go ahead and bring up the Georgia game.
They ran the ball, really well last year. They led the ACC in rushing, even against good or bad teams. When they faced bad teams, they really ran the ball well. I mean, they put 340 on North Carolina. And over 300 on Virginia, and then over 200 on Georgia, and then I think they had 200-something yards again on UCF. And, again, some of those teams aren't the greatest defenses, but, they dominate on the ground, and, they're just picking up where they left off. Now, I think something going forward is, okay, if teams do take away the run, what's the downfield passing is that Haynes King didn't turn the ball over yesterday, which was huge because he threw 16 interceptions last year. And that was one of the keys of the game going into it. You can't turn the ball over. Now, there was a couple of fumbles. About last
late in the game, that was going to,
that
might have screwed things
There's
up.
a couple of things right there, but I guess the downfield passing attack is, I guess, a question, when you face a more competent, maybe a better defense. But the thing is, they may not face that for a little bit because, Florida State, right off the bat, the reason I think this is also big is Georgia Tech has an insanely hard schedule. If you look, I forget, most of the list, ranking top 25 hardest schedules in the country, 24 of the 25 are going to be SEC and Big Ten teams. And then there's Georgia Tech sitting there at number 5 probably. They still have a really tough schedule, but this stretch here at the beginning after Florida State is the easiest it gets for you. You have Georgia State this weekend. You're a 3-touchdown favorite. You go to Syracuse. I think Syracuse will be better, but I think there's a lot of unknowns.
Georgia State and Syracuse have some better head coaches now, man.
I'm sure you think so, but we'll see. They might be. I don't know. We'll see. And then you got VMI, which is just to get out of their healthy game. Don't lose that game. And then the next big test will be at Louisville. So we'll kind of get a feeling. I thought yesterday was more of a road game than neutral site. I know some Tech fans were able to make it over, but it was a large contingent of Florida State fans. It was mostly a Florida State atmosphere yesterday. So.
Louisville alone is pretty tough. Louisville, Duke, UNC, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech. I've been hearing good things about Virginia Tech with that quarterback. Yeah. Miami, NC State, and UGA, and then if you make it, ACC championship. You're right. That is a tough schedule.
Yeah, it's week in and week out, but this is the stretch where if you want to get some wins because like I said, I don't know what the heck to expect.
You stole one already. That's a good way to start.
Yep. But you got to prove it's not a fluke. And, there's been a lot of craziness in week 0 before. So you don't want to write anything in stone just yet. I know we've been wanting football for like 6 months. Like we've all been waiting for it. So we're all ready to get our reactions in and everything. I'm just kind of being patient and seeing what it brings. Because what they need to do is go out and take care of business, because I really did like the hire of Dell McGee. There is no reason that game should be close Saturday. Like, zero reason that game should be close.
Sleep on my dog. Don't sleep on him, man.
I think he'll
Don't sleep on Fran Brown either now.
I think they'll be good in the long run, but I just think this year it might be a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah, you could be right. Another thing I want to highlight too, you brought up the defensive side of the ball, coaching. Big shout out to Buster Faulkner too, though. That offense was, dude. Yeah, like hey man, down the road, like if if for some reason we have an opening, I would love for Faulkner to come back to UGA. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I think the defense gets a little bit more of some credit, and not to take anything at all away from Buster. Like I saw Buster do this 1,000 times last year. Like the only bad game they really played on offense all year last year was against Clemson. Like that, Clemson just kicked their butt up front, and they just did not play well at all. It was just more impressive right out of the gate. The defense looked so much better. And we'll see if they can continue that, because if they can and the offense stays potent, there's no reason they couldn't be contending in the ACC. Possibly. Yeah. I'm not willing to go that far yet, but we'll see.
All right, so while we're on it, let's talk about these two teams, moving forward, and let's just look at the near future. We're going to make our week 1 picks starting now, and let's go ahead and kick things off with Boston College going against number 10 Florida State. Florida State coming in as a 17-point favorite. After that show in Jackson that you just watched, because I only mainly watched the second half now. I was going doing other stuff the first half, but I came back, watched the entire second half. Where do you see this game going? Because before the show began, you and I were sitting here talking. I'm at the point I could see this thing going either way at the moment.
Yeah, so this is tough because, again, like I was saying just a couple minutes ago, like there are times when teams look like crap in week 0 and then get better as the year goes along. Like, college doesn't have preseason. Like, a lot of, especially when you have a brand new team of transfers, you're trying to figure a lot of things out, which is why I give Georgia Tech an edge, because all these guys played together last year. Like there's not a whole lot of stuff new there. I don't know. Like the thing is, Boston College talent-wise is just not very good. Like they have a couple of interesting pieces. Like their quarterback, me and you talked about.
A lot of returners.
Thomas Castellanos is good. They were a decent team last year. They took advantage of a really, really bad schedule last year to get to 6 wins in a bowl game. I know they played FSU close, a really good FSU team.
Yeah, they did.
Look, I'll say this: if Florida State can't contain the quarterback run and the run game better, they could have a problem. I just don't think Boston College's offensive line is anywhere near as good as Georgia Tech's. Like I have a hard time seeing Florida State get moved around like they did this past week. And if they do, they have a lot of problems that they could be in for a really rough year.
Norvell, I mean, I hate to say it, but
well, I think Norvell is a good coach. I just think so much.
That's an easy hot seat, real quick.
I don't know about hot seat. I think there'll be some frustration. They were 13-1 last year. There's no way.
There's a lot of frustrations with it, man.
Failures. I mean, you're undefeated. They were undefeated, man. They literally.
I understand that, but that ain't enough for them fans right now, man. I'm telling you.
I
talked to and I'm not gonna base everything off of one Florida State fan, but I talked to my good buddy Maloney after that game, big Florida State fan. I said, I was talking to, trying to be nice. I'm not gonna be a butthole about it. I'm not gonna sit here and say, you lost. You know what I'm saying? But I told him, I was like, you're gonna have to bounce back from this. He said, you're gonna have to win out. They said they're gonna have to win out, and I said that's easier said than done. So what are you thinking? I mean, that's high expectation coming from a fan. I don't know. What are y'all thinking?
You go ahead, Torrez.
Look at this. Jacob said, "Thank God Bama didn't sign Norvell."
that is high expectation, because them guys still have like a few more tough games. Like I'm not be honest with you, I didn't see them losing to Georgia Tech.
I didn't either.
Losing to Georgia Tech.
But I knew Georgia Tech would make it a competitive game. I did.
Me too. I did feel like
I gave y'all that much respect.
That first game of the season, yes, could it be a telltale of like how the rest of the season can definitely go? Yes, but it can also show you like, a lot of these guys play really hard in that first game. That first game is like, all right, I know everybody got a lot of jitters. I'm not saying this is going to be FSU throughout the year. Now, I'm also not saying I think FSU is going to be the top tier team in the ACC, but I still think they might got at least 1 or 2 more losses left on their schedule. They still got to go to Notre Dame. They still got to go to Miami. They got to go to Duke. They still got to play Clemson. And I mean, whatever you must.
So a lot of people are starting to bring up Memphis, man. There's a lot of people hyping up Memphis. I don't know how legit that is, but
Memphis is going to go to the playoff.
They're going to make the playoff, you think?
As the group of 5 team, yes. Memphis.
So maybe there's some smoke, man. Maybe there's some smoke.
I don't think they're going to be able to physically hold up against Florida State. I don't think they win that game.
That's going to be a quick barometer check though for them. Like, how legit are these guys?
Well, the thing is, again, if the running game for them is not much better, these receivers in the passing game, it's just I don't think it's going to get much better. I just don't think like DJU is like he's okay. Like
yeah, I can't get behind him, man. I can't get behind him.
I just don't believe in him, and I don't think their receivers are good. Like some of the guys they picked up, like Jaylen Brown, he never played at LSU, and he's a starter for Florida State. Malik Benson couldn't crack the lineup of what, in my opinion, was a mediocre Alabama receiving corps last year. He didn't play.
Those are fighting words.
Ja'Kai Douglas has been at Florida State. I've told Kobe that to his face. So
Jacob, what are you thinking? Mediocre wideouts last year?
Ja'Kai Douglas has been at Florida State for like 10 years and he doesn't play. Like, and he's all of a sudden they're like some of these guys are. He agrees with me. I just don't think their passing game is ever going to be that good this year. So if they cannot figure out things on the ground, I think that you're looking at maybe 4 or 5 losses. Like you're playing with fire. Especially if another thing is if the defense isn't.
So you think if there are 4, and not to take this too long because we do need to move on here at some point, but 4 or 5 losses, you think that Norvell ain't on the hot seat?
He's not going to get fired. Like, will there be a lot of frustration? And the thing with Norvell, and I'll wrap this up quickly. He does a great job in the portal. I've always worried if you do this year to year, he is a decent. He does not recruit at an elite level. Like, how many times have we seen Norvell lose kids close to signing day?
They started, if I'm not mistaken, early signing day. They started off in the top 5 with who they had verbally committed. Yeah, by the end of that day, they were outside the top 10. I want to say.
Yeah, they're like 16th.
That is not closing at an elite level. That is not closing at an elite level at all.
You had Bolden flip to Georgia. You had Armando Blunt, that 5-star defensive tackle, flip to Miami. Like, the thing is, if Mario Cristobal can figure out some game management and coaching skills, he is lapping Norvell in recruiting.
Yeah.
Like, if Miami,
you can't rely on the transfer portal year after year like that. It is not sustainable.
No, they hit lightning in and I think he's a good coach, but you had a lot of things go right for you these past couple of years in terms of development and then hitting on the right transfers. There wasn't a lot of transfer quarterbacks there. When they took DJU, that kind of signaled that sent some alarm bells to me. Like, I just don't know why you take him.
So this game right here, you got FSU. Do you have them covering the 17?
No. After yesterday, I just don't know how I could ask them to cover.
All right, Torrez, what about you?
I don't have them covering. No, I think they win the game, but I don't have them covering.
I'm right there with y'all. FSU no cover for all of us. All right, now let's look at Jackson. You start us off here. Georgia State going against Georgia Tech. For now, they are unranked. We'll see if that changes here in the future. They're 21.5-point favorites here. What do you got?
I'm just fascinated to see what Georgia State looks like because I have zero clue what they look like. So for people that don't know, the whole thing about Del McGee getting hired, he got hired because Sean Elliott quit after or didn't quit, I guess is maybe wrong words, but he left after 4 practices in the spring to go be the tight ends coach at South Carolina. They didn't even finish spring practice, I don't think. So they've gotten a lot of transfers. I think they've gotten 4 quarterbacks through the transfer portal, including Zach Gibson, who was at Georgia Tech the past couple of years. I have no idea what they're going to look like really. On paper, look, Tech is a much better team. Tech has lost some games like this, like they lost to Bowling Green last year. Like that doesn't nobody needs to be reminded of that. But I think Tech, I could see Tech coming out and struggling a little bit. You're coming back from Ireland. You that's a lot of travel. You're playing a team that you might not respect all that much. I could see it being a close game for a quarter, but I do think Tech wins, and I think they cover. I'm never comfortable picking big spreads like this because you could lead by 26 all game and then get some fluky touchdown with 30
at the end,
and then you get a 19-point cover instead of 21.5. So
I'll win but not cover.
I think they cover. I just don't think Georgia State's any good this year.
I'm gonna go with you as well. I'm gonna go Georgia Tech to cover.
Yeah, I'm about to say, man, we got Georgia State. I mean, heck, they play Georgia Tech this week, and then next week they play my Chattanooga Mocs, and I'm like, oh, freak! Chat got 2 back-to-back, rough games to start the season on. So, this is not going to be the game where they get their first win. I think the following week will be. Georgia Tech for one to come out and have a really close game against Florida State to win that game in that type of fashion. Last second field goal. You went through all the first game jitters of the season, with all the stuff down with new players and everything. I think it's going to be more of a comfortable game. And while back in Atlanta, I think this is going to be more of excitement for the fans as well. This might be the most that the fans be at the game unless Georgia Tech is ranked throughout the season and they have a big home game. But it's going to be a really big game to start the season off. Fans going to be out there. Players going to be energized. Give them the spread. I think Georgia Tech covers.
Yeah,
I will say this: it's Georgia State's Super Bowl. They've never played. They're right there next to each other. Yeah, they're right next to each other. They've never played before like this. It'll be their Super Bowl.
Recruiting implications.
They have. I don't think they're recruiting quite from the same talent.
McGee's going to end up getting on it, man. I'm just telling you right now. Give him time.
I don't know.
Give him time. McGee's like that as far as recruiting. I really do. And if there's one thing he knows, it's the state of Georgia. It's the state of Georgia. That sucker grew up coaching in the state of Georgia high school ball. He, ended up at Georgia Southern while we were there, right? Or right there before it. And then, went to UGA. He knows the state, man. He's going to end up getting it right. I really do think so. All right, next up, Torrez, you start us off with this one. Your Chattanooga Mocs going against number 15, Tennessee. Tennessee's a 38.5 point favorite here. Who you got?
Love Chat, man. Actually, Chattanooga is actually doing a lot better. Anybody has stayed with Chattanooga, they have actually looked a lot better throughout the past 2 years. They're a really good team. They got a new quarterback, Chase Arthur. He's a senior. He played last year. I can't think of his last. But Chase is a really good quarterback. For the Mocs, they got a really solid overall team. Chat actually, a lot of time I was in Chattanooga, was majority of a running team. We didn't really have that great of a passing game. We had a few individual receivers that could make good plays, but we didn't have a great passing game overall. Now, I think Chattanooga relies a lot on their passing, and I think their passing is their bread and butter. Now, I think most of the time, if you watch any Chattanooga game, they always start out hot against these FBS schools. They're probably going to score first. Could be a touchdown, could be a field goal, but they're probably going to score first, as always. First half might be neck and neck, but in that second half, that's when the numbers game play. That's when that extra star, that extra 2 stars, starts to make dividends in that second half. And I think Tennessee definitely covers in this. 40 points is pretty widespread, but Tennessee got a really good team. You're playing in Knoxville first game, man. That place gonna be rocking. That Rocky Top. They played that song when we played Tennessee my junior year, and he played that song on repeat every day at practice. And I hate that song. I mean, oh my gosh, that Rocky Top song. It makes you almost want to throw up, but it's gonna be played, and it's gonna be rocking loud in Knoxville this Saturday.
Yeah. So you got Tennessee covering that 38.
That's a lot of points to cover.
It is a lot.
I think,
and I'm gonna go with it too. I tell you who's licking their chops here, and that that UTC is gonna be passing a lot. James Pierce. He's ready to get back in that backfield and make some sacks. I think he's gonna make a big difference. Obviously Nico on the other end of the the other side of the ball. I think they blow them out. I think they start off hot. This is a classic Tennessee. Let's get everybody hyped up kind of game. Go ahead, Jackson.
I'll keep short and sweet. I have Tennessee in the playoff. I think they're the second or third best team in the SEC. Lay them.
Yeah.
And I also say this: there are some coaches out there who will.
What do you have their record being? By the way,
I think it'll be 10-2. I think
okay.
Who the two losses?
I went crazy and went 11-1.
I think it's possible. I'm a big believer in Nico, and I think they might have the best defensive line in the SEC.
Wow.
I said Tennessee as well, but I know most people probably would give that loss to Alabama. I actually think they can beat Bama. I give that loss to Oklahoma and Georgia.
Yeah. Their schedule's very manageable.
It is.
It's very manageable.
All right, so you got Tennessee with the covering the 38, right?
Yep.
All right, so
Josh Heupel's one of those coaches that runs the score up. Like
he will.
Him and James Franklin, when they have big spreads, they will run the score up.
Oh, Bobby from King of the Hill is going to run it up on him, ain't he? All right. Hey, Jackson, you start us off here. Go. Take us with this ACC North Carolina versus Minnesota. Minnesota being a 1.5 point.
What y'all thought first, because this game freaks me out because
doesn't North Carolina have a former Georgia Tech player, McCollum, right?
Yeah, McCollum was on there, Collins last year, and when Key took over Zender, and then he hit the portal, went to North Carolina. He was pretty solid last year. He's a good player. I'm not high on North Carolina. I thought they were kind of a paper tiger these past couple of years. If they didn't have a top 3 pick at quarterback, their defense is it was even worse than Georgia Tech's was last year. And they have Jeff Collins as the defensive coordinator. I don't know about that. He's been a good defensive coordinator in the past. I'm not gonna say he wasn't, but I don't know. I just don't think the talent level is there to be a high level defense. They're going with 2 quarterbacks. They're both going to play Max Johnson, who I'm not really a fan of, and then that kid that started the bowl game last year, he's okay. Now they could have a really good running game. Amari Hampton's one of the best running backs in the country. I mean, he'll play in the NFL and play for a while, I think. Mm-hmm. Minnesota lost their defensive coordinator. They've been sneakily one of the best defenses in the country over the past couple of years with Joe Rossi as the defensive coordinator. He left for Michigan State. They've got some injuries. I've got questions at quarterback. It's in Minnesota. I really don't know. My gut says take North Carolina, but I don't know how this game's going to play out. I think it's going to be maybe the weirdest game of the weekend. Not the best by any means, but just weird.
So North Carolina.
Yeah, but my confidence level is like a 2.
Okay. Mine all hinges on the health of the running back for Minnesota. Was it Darius?
Darius
Taylor?
Yeah, he's a really good player.
He's legit. The kid's legit. I had him for a little bit in fantasy last year. Really good. Right now he's dealing with a hamstring though. That's my caution right there. That's my worry. You're right. They do have a good defense. If he's playing, I'm just going to take him without him. I'm going to take Minnesota to cover the 1.5 at home. Ooh. That's what I'm going to take. Go ahead, Torrez.
That's going to be a tough game, man. I'm looking at the numbers in this a lot. That's going to be a 1.5 on the road.
Yeah.
Man, Jesus. I'm gonna go against it. I'm gonna go North Carolina.
Okay. All right. So then, Jackson, I do want you to start this one off because you had some interesting stuff to say pre-show for this. Just discussing North Dakota State going against Colorado. Colorado, a 9.5 point favorite here. Kind of tell the audience a little bit about what you were telling me earlier.
Yeah. So I'm not big on Colorado as a whole. I don't think they have a lot of depth. I think I'm kind of sick of them, to be honest.
So you're saying they're the same team as last year?
I actually think they're better than last year. I just don't think they have any depth. I know the popular thing right now is about North Dakota State and how could Colorado be such a favorite. I'll take the points. I think Colorado smokes them this week. I just think they have their higher level of athletes and their starters are on a completely different level than North Dakota State. North Dakota State, this is not the same team as in the past where they're just running wild over the FCS and winning the national title, but also beating everybody by 40 points. They don't really have a lot of NFL talent. Their head coach just left in the offseason to be an assistant coach at USC. So you guys now they've kind of gone from coach to coach. I mean, Chris Kleiman at Kansas State was there for a long time, and he's a really good coach. The coach that just left USC, his name's slipping my mind right now, but he took over. They've had a lot of sustained success, but they've done it with NFL talent, especially at important positions like quarterback. We had Carson Wentz, Trey Lance. You had defensive linemen that played in the NFL. offensive linemen that played in the NFL. Like they had a second round guard not too long ago. Like they've had guys put in the NFL. This is not that. Just looking at them, and they've kind of struggled to maintain that high level of play over the past couple of years. I do think first of the year Colorado's not hurt because I think their depth over the long term of the season would worry me if I was a Colorado fan. But it's the first game of the season. Everybody's good to go. They have more high level athletes. I like Colorado, and I like them comfortably in this game. Actually,
Yeah, you made me a believer in that one. Go ahead, Torres.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely take Colorado with the spread, but I'm going to take a little bit of a different angle at it.
All right, let's
I
hear
think North Dakota State so far actually has not been to the higher level. They, as people used to call them, they were the Alabama of FCS, which they were. They dominated. I mean, they won the national championship nearly every year. If you were lucky to have a close game, congratulations. They were that good. And then they were beating ranked FBS teams. They would come and play an FBS team, either beat them majority of the time or have a very, very close game with them. North Dakota State has still, even last year, they made it to the Final Four. They would have made it to the semis. They were one game away from being right back in the national championship again. I don't necessarily know how many guys they actually got back coming back from that team, but they're still a really good team. They still can pose some threats towards Colorado. I know Colorado is now, especially with Dion, with the way they recruit, they're more towards the higher end now of FBS teams. But I still won't sleep on North Dakota State. I think they can definitely give Colorado a little bit of a threat in this game, but I definitely got Colorado winning this game. I do think they take the spread because, like you were saying, they will out-athlete them. You know, my athleticism is that much better. It's not even about the play calling. I'm just that much better of an athlete.
Yeah.
And I think Colorado is definitely going to take advantage of that and utilize that against North Dakota State.
Yeah, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmys and the Joes. There you
Right.
go. I'll roll with that with y'all. Go ahead, mark me down for Colorado covering the 9.5. Next, we got Fresno State, unranked Fresno State going against Michigan, number 9 Michigan, that is. Michigan's coming in as a 21.5-point favorite here. I'll go ahead and kick this one off. Playing at the Big House, correct? I believe so. I'm going to take Michigan to cover. I just think it's going to be too much. I think they're going to out-physical them. They're always up there when it comes to the trenches. I still think they got some really good guys on the defensive line and offensive line. We'll have to see what the offense looks like now without McCarthy, without Corum. But I do like Donovan Edwards still. I still think they'll be able to put together some stuff. I know they still got a pretty good tight end over there. Is it Loveland? I think
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah, like they still got some dogs. So give me Michigan to cover the 21.5.
I feel like we all going to probably pick Michigan to cover in this. The real question is, since we never necessarily haven't talked about it, obviously these are the defending champions. How do we foresee the defending champions coming out into this upcoming season? Because obviously this isn't the game they're worried about. I'm already to assure you they're probably already game plan for next week, which is getting ready for Texas. That's the game.
Yeah.
And Michigan actually got a interesting schedule. Obviously they got Oregon, they got obviously Ohio State, they got Washington. I don't think Washington will obviously be as good, but repeat of national championship. You got USC. Michigan State is always, just up in the air because they're rivals. They got a solid schedule with a lot of changing pieces this past offseason. I can't sit here and say that I see Michigan being a lock for the playoffs. I actually feel like it's pretty up in the air for them. They might not even be the third best team in the Big Ten. They might not even be the fourth best. It's like it's that close now with a lot of the movement now within the Big Ten. How do y'all foresee their season going? Because I feel like they might have maybe 2 to 3 losses this upcoming season.
Go ahead, Jackson. I'll let you take this one on.
I personally think if some things go right, I think they might be the most underrated team in the country. Look, their schedule is no doubt harder than what it's been. The past couple of years, or like last 2 or 3 years, they've started off with 3 super easy non-conference games, and then you had some of the worst teams in the Big Ten, and then you really weren't playing a football game till October. So I agree with what Torrez is saying. While getting some Fresno State practices in, you've probably had a Texas period or 2 mixed in there because that
period's gotten easier with the loss of Cedric Baxter and who else was it? There was another guy.
I forget his name.
Yeah, 2 running backs.
This is the best defensive line in the country. Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, like those guys, this is the best defensive line in the country. They're just going to be able to really beat up a ton of the teams they play up front. Donovan Edwards is back.
I like Donovan.
If Alex Orji or whoever the heck they pick at quarterback,
that's what I was going to ask. Who is the quarterback?
That's what gives me pause because I don't know about him. I know he's a really good athlete and can run around. If he can figure out if he can pass consistently and they can have a threat there and some receivers step up, I think they really could be like a repeat as Big Ten Conference champions. It's just I'm just not willing to go there because I just don't know about that. But I just think they're going to be able to physically beat up most of the teams they play. To me, they have like a 4-game season. Basically, it's Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, and USC. And I don't even know if I really include USC there because I don't think USC can block Michigan. No. But just I think there are some things USC could do with their skilled players that could possibly give Michigan some trouble because I do think USC still has really good skill players. It all comes down to the passing attack for me. Like if they can find a consistent passing attack, I absolutely think they could win the Big Ten and be a threat to repeat. But that's a very big if, like a really big if.
I'm pretty sure when I looked at Texas's when we were doing our SEC preview, I'm pretty sure I had Texas pegged for a loss against Michigan, and I feel that way even more so now, just due to the injury stuff. I think this is this is the reason I drafted Quinn Ewers in our college fantasy, Jackson. I just feel like a lot's going to have to ride on him this year without the running game. They did lose, some key pieces in the trenches. I feel like a lot's going to have to ride on him this year. He's going to be rushed sometimes, but he's going to have to make some throws to keep this team in some games. But, I definitely, especially in that game, he's going to be running for his life. I still think Michigan is still up there. I do think I still have Oregon and Ohio State ahead of them, though. So I'm looking at them as third.
I had them as an 8 seed in the playoff. Like, I've got Ohio State winning the Big Ten. I think Ohio State and Oregon, to me, are clearly the 2 best teams in the Big Ten. Look, I know I was a Penn State guy last year. I can't put Penn State.
Yeah. I'm glad you're learning your lesson now. Join the team.
I still got them in the playoff too. So
okay, well, never mind.
Penn State.
Yeah.
I don't know, bro. I don't know about that one. So Jackson, Michigan to cover it.
Yeah, that one I'm a little bit more worried because like 21.5. Like I don't know if Fresno State's going to score a point in this game. I don't know if
they'll be able to run the rock and they'll be able to play defense. Ground and pound, baby.
Jeff Tedford, Fresno State's head coach, he's been a really good coach for a very long time. Like he stepped down recently due to health reasons, so they've kind of been dealing with that, going to Michigan and everything. I could see Michigan having a chip on their shoulder too because everybody's kind of writing them off a little bit. Like sometimes that thing can get overplayed, though.
Yeah.
The chip on the shoulder stuff. I really do think you could see them come out with a little bit of fire to them.
I think you're right. All right, next one. While you were on the topic of Penn State, Jackson, let's swing it to you. Number 8, Penn State is an 8.5-point favorite against West Virginia. How you see this one going?
Yeah, this could end up being like the most competitive noon game, which we'll get to the other one in a little bit. But
yeah,
I'm really interested to see how this turns out because, again, I was a Penn State believer last year. Didn't quite go as expected, although I think they weren't as bad as some people made them out. Like they still went 10-2 and had like the top 5 defense in the country. Like, I mean, it wasn't like they were terrible. Mm-hmm. And 10-2 in the playoff in this system is going to get you in 9 times out of 10 unless you have Notre Dame scheduled this year. Look, they get Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator who's been at Kansas. I don't need to tell you how big of a fan of that offense I've been the past few years. Like, I just think they do a really good job of scheming guys open. I think they do a really good job with motions and shifts and a wide diversity in the run game. I think the offense should be better, and the defense for Penn State is almost always good. Like, Penn State's up there with one of the top defensive lines in the country. That they're really good. Going to West Virginia – that's a tough place to play. I think West Virginia wasn't as good as their record suggested last year. I know they won 9 games, but a lot of them were really close games, and they also struggled throwing the football. So I don't feel comfortable doing it, but give me Penn State in the points.
Man. Torrez, what about you?
Man. Penn State. Here we go. Let me tell you something, man. Penn State is – look. I was looking at some of the stuff on their schedule just to really see, like, okay, what this team is really going to be about this year. Man, Good thing they start on the road and should knock this one out. I mean, that first few games should be all win, just about up until they get to USC. I think Penn State wins this game. It's just the way that they play football. It's like I can never be dependent on them, expecting them to score a lot of points. They're going to win this game, and I feel like they'll win this by more than 8 points. So I think they'll win it probably at least by like 10-13. But that's about it, because Penn State has always been like a struggle on offense. And I feel like we're going to just get a repeat of that again. They've already been really very sound defensively. And yes, they have a solid running game, but I just don't feel like they're going to have anything to really put up the bar. Like, what'd you say?
Julian Fleming transferring in. Maybe he helps. I don't know.
Maybe. James Franklin, you got to show me something, man.
For real,
you've been there for a long time.
That's where I'm at. You've
been there a long time, brother. And I usually defend. See, the thing is, I don't like quick changes, even when you've been successful, because he's been successful at Penn State. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, you need to be fired. No. But I'm just saying, it's time to see different colors now at Penn State. It's time to, even when you got like Hupel, we talk about Hupel at Tennessee. At least what was it 2 years ago, when Tennessee at least was like in the running for the playoffs. At least
beat Bama. They were going to beat Georgia.
Like, number 1 ranked team. We've always seen Penn State around the area between 6, 10,
a couple,
which is really good. But I think now it's become stale.
Yeah.
So just a couple points I'll make there is I'll at least say like he never lost. He would never give up 63 points to South Carolina. Like they don't lose those games. Like Penn State does not really lose to teams they shouldn't, which is I do think a good thing you can say. And I don't have national championship expectations at Penn State. I think he is maximizing what you can do at Penn State. I just don't think they're in Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon. They don't recruit at that level. They never have, and I don't think that they really
they do get a few gems every now and
then.
then.
They do good. I'm not saying they do bad, but when was the last time you saw Penn State in the top 5?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the Danny Dennis Sutton, I like him a lot on the defensive side. Like, there's some guys that they've got that I
just think for what Penn State expects to be as a program and what they're trying to do, I just think he maximizes them. And look, maybe I think for them, if you're going to recruit at that level, or I guess if you're not going to have those kind of recruit classes, what they've always lacked is a quarterback. If you put a good quarterback on those Saquon Barkley, Chris Godwin teams from maybe 7-8 years ago, those teams are in the playoff probably. Like they almost made it a couple years with Trace McSorley.
So, Torrez, did you have Penn State covering that 8.5?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to ride that as well. I will take Penn State to cover. I think they can ground and pound this game away. All right, Jackson, I'm going to ask you once again to start this one off because I know you got some skin in the game here. Miami, number 19 Miami is a 2.5-point favorite against Florida. Hit me with it.
This game, this is another. I think this is the most fascinating game of the weekend. On paper, I think Miami is by far the best roster in the ACC. I don't think it's close.
Nice.
The reason that they're not the overwhelming favorite to win the conference is the head coach. And I think Mario Cristobal does get crapped on a little bit more than he should. This dude still has 2 Pac-12 titles, multiple 10-win seasons, and there's only 2 or 3 coaches I would say recruit better than he does. Honestly, he is excellent.
He's up there. He's been.
So I do think he gets a little bit too much hate at times, but you can't deny he has not gotten the most out of a lot of the talented teams he's had. That's whenever he's had a lot more talent than other people. He's just not a good game management or game day coach. You're playing on the road, first game. Florida is really, 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 really going to want to win this game. If Florida doesn't win this game, I think you can kiss a possible bowl game for them goodbye. They have to.
It's not happening anyways. They got.
I think it could if they win this game. There are some winnable games on the schedule that they could beat Kentucky, they could beat UCF, they're going to beat Samford. They could beat Mississippi State. They could get some wins. I just can't see them if they lose this game picking up one somewhere else because that last 5 games is just brutal.
Brutal.
The death march. Man walking.
Yeah. So on paper, I think Miami's a better team. I'll pick Miami to win and cover. I have my confidence level is -10 here. I just
Wow.
how many times has Miami disappointed? Like
Yeah.
They have.
four times
They might disappoint me. Who knows?
But I'll say this: I think some of those times they've disappointed, they've not had a roster like this, and some of it they are going to be excellent on the line of scrimmage. I think, like
I think so too.
Miami teams in the past, it's more some of the finesse and skill players, like almost a little Lincoln Riley-esque. Like you're good, but like you have some real flaws up front. I think Miami has the best offensive and defensive line in the ACC. I think they have the best quarterback in the ACC. I think Florida is actually a somewhat decent team. I just think the schedule is just going to hinder what they're actually able to do, really. Like, I don't think they're a terrible team. Playing on the road in the Swamp Week, when that's a really hard place to play, I'll take Miami, but my confidence is not very high. And I could easily see Florida winning this game.
It's funny. Yeah. It's funny because Tyler absolutely despises. He don't even think. What you say? You gave Florida what? Maybe two wins.
I got them 2 wins.
They'll win.
Sanford and Mississippi State. That's all I'm giving them. They're not going to beat Kentucky.
They will beat.
I don't think they will. I really don't think they will.
I don't think
who's the other win besides Sanford?
Sanford and Mississippi State. That's all I'm giving them. That's all I'm giving you.
You think they lose?
UCF? Not UCF?
You think they lose?
UCF's good. UCF looks good. They got a good coach and they got good talent. Torrez, have you not seen their depth chart?
I haven't. I have not.
You need to check it out. Like, it's actually pretty doggone good. Like, you're sleeping on them, brother. They've got KJ Jefferson now. They got KJ Jefferson from Arkansas.
Right.
They got Kobe Hudson at wide receiver. He's pretty solid. They've recruited like decent across the board. Penny Boone, Ja'Cory Brown, wasn't he formerly at Miami?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
He's like a backup. I mean, he's not going to do nothing crazy. They've gotten dudes from Bama, like they gotten some other guys from like Miami. I want to say Najalik Kelly, however you pronounce it. He was like a former 5-star. Like they got dudes to be a group of 5.
Who's the coach?
Right? Aren't they still in the group of 5?
Who's the coach?
It's Gus Malzahn.
Malzahn, man.
Right. That's right.
Dude, like I'm not like I don't know. I feel like we're disrespecting UCF now. Like I've gone the whole.
I don't think their defense is that good. That's my thing. Like I don't think
Florida's offense is good. I don't know.
If Montrell Johnson gets healthy, I do think they have an identity. And like Mertz was not that bad last year. Like I know people like to hate on Graham Mertz. Look at his numbers; he was not that bad last year.
He wasn't that good either, man.
I thought he was.
I don't know. Depends on. It's all subjective, I guess you could say. I don't know. Compared to what? I don't know. Like they're saying Lagway's going to end up taking over before the end of the year. I don't know if you're on that boat or not, but
I think it's possible. I think the pressure could be there, especially if you lose this game, because like the two ways I could see Napier saving his job is if they either get to a bowl game with Mertz and like he'll just, hey, we have the hardest schedule in the country, we're on the come up and stuff. Or if DJ Lagway comes in and looks really, really good, maybe they don't make a bowl game, but you look like
to hold that
because something maybe he just loves Florida, but if you fire Napier, do you risk losing Lagway? I don't know.
I don't know. That if they pay him enough, he'll stay. I don't know. Texas was in on Lagway late. They were able to keep him from Texas.
Was too, I think.
Yeah, USC. So I mean, I'm gonna say it with my chest. I got Miami winning. I got Miami coming in here. I got them winning. Like you said, you've laid it out. The roster looks good. I think that this fan base is going to turn on them within the first half of this game. I really do. I think that place is going to be shut up. Like it's not going to look pretty. You're going to start seeing those memes of, the old Florida State days where there's guys up there, taking a nap, reading a book, whatever it is. Like I feel like we're going to see. First game of the season, you are right. They come out hooping and hollering, but I feel like if you can come in there and you can snatch it quick, which I know Cristobal's got to know, like you got to come in there hot. Like, and I think he's going to keep it upright.
I was going to say, I think the start of this game in the first quarter is just going to tell us.
It's very key. Extremely key.
Because if you can take the air out of that place, because it's going to be loud and it's going to be crazy. That
it is.
Like,
and I'll give them that much.
Florida are rivals, but they don't play much. Like they don't get a chance to play each other all that often. So
I just don't know who I'm supposed to be afraid of on this defense outside of Shamar.
I agree.
Maybe I'll give some respect to Jason Marshall. That's all I'm going to do. I don't give a rip about any of these rest of these guys. It's Jamar James at middle linebacker. It's Jason Marshall at corner. That's it. Like I don't know. I think that's going to be enough. Then they got the 500-pound big boy that can come in every now and then. I don't give a rip about any of the rest of this team. I don't think they're good. I really don't, and I think they're going to get dominated. I just don't. I don't see it, man. That's me. Miami by a lot.
I got Miami covering the spread, but I actually think Florida, first game of the season, I don't think Florida's going to be that bad that early. We're going to see them do some good things. I think Miami's going to keep it close. I think Florida's going to keep it close, but I think Miami's going to pull it out. I can see Miami winning. I actually can see Miami winning by just a touchdown.
There is a world in which I think Tyler's right and Miami just blast them. Like, if Miami plays up to the potential of its roster, they will kill Florida. But again,
in the first game.
When was the last time Miami did that?
You're right. There is reason for caution. I will say, who's their OC right now in DC? Who
Shannon Dawson. They bring back both their coordinators from last year. Shannon Dawson, he was at Houston before, and then Lance Guidry, who was at Marshall. They have good coordinators. It's just, again,
I think they're going to get it right. I think they are. I just think they're going to get it right. Damian Martinez, you got the Ward coming in. I like Jacoby George already. I like Restrepo. Okunlola is a former 5-star. Maoga is a former 5-star. Like, they've got dudes. They
look like an SEC team on the lines of scrimmage. They really do.
Yeah, like those two alone, those 2 5-stars I mentioned, that is worth a lot. Like, that really is. And then who is it that you like a lot on their you have to teach me a little bit about their defensive line. Who is it?
Their defensive line, I think, could end up being like a top 5 unit.
I see a lot of transfers. Where are these guys from?
Yeah. Well, so Simeon Barrows from Michigan State, C.J. Clark is from NC State, Marley Cook's from Middle Tennessee. They were all three really good. Like, I know a lot of schools.
Tyler Barron ended up there, huh?
Tyler Barron ended up there. Ruben Bain
bounced around a ton.
Yeah, was ACC.
Elijah Alston, where was he at?
He was Marshall.
Okay.
And they've had a sneaky good defense over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Marshall's had a really good defense over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
The biggest concern for Miami is in the secondary. I think they're just counting on their front seven to beat the crap out of everybody and just help cover the secondary up. And I don't know if Florida's going to be able to expose them in the secondary.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. All right, I'm going to keep the train rolling with the aggressiveness. Number 23 USC going to number 13 LSU. LSU coming as a 4.5-point favorite. If you tuned into our SEC preview show, I had it LSU Georgia in the SEC championship game, both at 11-1. LSU by a good bit. USC, when are we going to learn? When are we going to learn, y'all? Lincoln Riley, when are we going to learn to quit buying into this facade, this magician show that he puts on for us on the offense and then does absolutely nothing in the trenches? LSU, sure, they have some question marks. This is SEC ball at the end of the day. I know I'm a bigot for thinking that way. God forgive me, for thinking that way. How dare I think that SEC is over everybody else, but who cares? LSU by more than the 4.5. I'm confident of it. Who wants
you want me to go ahead, Torrez, or
who's going to throw the fire on it?
I'm going to say LSU by 4.5. I'm taking them. I'm really believing a lot in what Gabbett, Jim. Dang, what's the head coach name right now?
Brian Kelly.
Brian Kelly. Yeah, Brian Kelly. I'm really believing a lot of what he did, especially last year. He had this team being able to play really, really good. I did think a little bit last year they did fall off towards the end. But, I mean, it's a part of, like, having a really, really hard schedule. But I think I really do think he's going to be big for LSU this year. I think he's a really good coach for them. Definitely losing a lot of pieces of offense, with a lot of the guys going to the league now, obviously from receiver and quarterback. But I think they just keep churning, and they're definitely going to be offensive heavy. The question is their defense going to be better? And I think
it's got to be.
Yeah, it can't be no worse than what it can't be worse.
It's just like Georgia Tech with what Jackson said. It can't get much worse than it was last year. It was awful.
You're right. It can't get.
It's going to get better. It's going to get better.
And going against a team like USC, we'll definitely see how good your defense has gotten better.
You can get in the trenches with them, man. You can go against that offensive front. I feel like I don't really care. He just doesn't. They don't really care about it. Like, I don't know. They don't value. They value them enough to buy their commitments for a couple months and then let them slip. That's what they do. Go ahead, Jackson.
Give me the Trojans in this game.
Now listen here.
Yeah. LSU was worse than USC last year on defense, and LSU did absolutely nothing in the transfer portal that makes me think they're going to be better. I agree that coaching can make a difference. I don't think they'll be as bad, but I don't know that they're going to be all that good either. Like LSU's been really terrible the past couple of years on defense, and they've done nothing in the portal this year. Now, I'm a big fan of Garrett Nussmeier. LSU always has receivers. They have a very good offensive line.
Yeah, Lacey.
I do think some of the narrative around Lincoln Riley has gotten a little bit out of control to an extent that people just don't think he's a good coach anymore. If LSU is not improved on defense,
they're going to be.
USC is going to score. They always score. Even last year when they weren't very good, they will score points. And I'm also buying in USC being better on defense. I do think as far as staff goes and some of the guys.
Where is it going to get better at?
I think just coaching. I think that's the big thing. I think a lot of USC over
what they change up.
DeAnton Lynn is coming in as defensive coordinator. He was at UCLA the past few years. They had a top 15 defense last year. The head coach of North Dakota State, I forget his name off the top of my head, but like I was saying earlier, he's on the staff now. They have a lot. They turned that whole defensive staff over. And again, I don't think this is going to be a top 30 or top 25 unit overnight. I think they can get enough stops. And the thing is, this line has come down because it was at 7 or 7.5 not too long ago, and it's all the way down to 4.5. There's some money coming in on USC, and I think some of it is. I was listening to somebody talk about LSU that day. Some of it is people think they may not be as good as some people think, and they may be a little banged up. So, I'm not super confident in it. I think USC. I don't think they're a playoff. Or maybe, but I don't think they're a national title contender. I do think they're getting a little bit of disrespect just because I do think it's fun to hate on Lincoln Riley now. I think it's kind of a thing.
I have fun.
I think that can cloud people's perceptions of them. I give me USC.
I may be in that.
Not just you. I just in general. I think people.
I'll be for real though. I think I'm one of those. I feel like he's burnt me too many times. The defense doesn't do anything. The trenches don't do anything. I just feel like I've been hoodwinked too many times by Lincoln Riley.
The talent has to improve, but I do think that they made a serious investment in terms of coaching staff. The coaching is
the guy that
Alex
Aaron Donald.
Yeah,
it's
better than what you had.
That crap killed me. They're claiming all that crap now. We got the guy that turned Aaron Donald into a all pro or whatever. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Lord have mercy. That's how they're getting them. But yeah, so you got USC. All right, you're the lone wolf on this one.
Give me the over in that game too.
Okay. I could see that as well. Last year, you and I were both the same when it came to the LSU hype. I remember you and I were both on that train.
Yeah, I bought that hook, line, and sinker worse than I did Penn State.
And I may have done it again. I very well may have.
But I'm not buying them. I don't have them in the playoff. I think Tennessee's better than them. I think Alabama's better than them. I think Texas is better than them. I think Ole Miss is better than them.
I think they're going to sneak some this year, but we're going to find out. We're going to have to find out. All right, next one. This one's a tough for me. Tough one. I can't remember who I picked when we were doing our predictions as far as when I was looking through at A&M. I can't remember who I picked in this one. This is going to be a good one, I feel like. Number 7, Notre Dame versus number 20, Texas A&M. A&M coming in as a 3-point favorite. Torrez, you want to kick us off first on this one?
Yeah, man, I'm actually really excited for this game. Looking at a team like Texas A&M, seeing a lot of the things that are going to be changing up this year, they still got a hard schedule, man. With Texas A&M now having to play, they got Notre Dame to start off. They got a little stretch. Then they got Missouri. Then they got LSU. They got Texas. I thought maybe I was looking at them. I thought they started to play Alabama, but it looked like obviously not being in the West. It's helped them out a little bit. I'm liking a lot with Notre Dame. Notre Dame, they stopped last year, man. They look really good. And it's crazy that I'm saying this because I'm never a fan of Notre Dame. I used to always say they never should be ranked until proven otherwise. But this is actually a year I can get behind them. And to pick them to beat an SEC team, first game of the season, in Kyle Field, sign me up. I think Notre Dame gets the job done, man. I like what they got, man. They were actually pretty solid defensively last year. They're growing as a team. I know they lost to Clemson, and who else they lost to? Oh, somebody else. Did they lose to Florida State last year or no? Who else they lost?
If they played them, they had to because
They lost to Louisville.
Louisville. That's
okay.
right. That's right. Because they actually had an actual case at one point to potentially put a push towards the playoffs, but obviously, losing to Clemson, losing a few others, but they were beating some solid teams, and it was actually on a good little run. I like what I see out of Notre Dame. I think we see a lot more of it coming again next year. Give me Notre Dame for the upset. But, well, even though they're ranked higher, I know they got A&M as the favorite, but give me Notre Dame.
This is a tough one for me. Um, A&M, it's all about what they look like offensively to me. I think you can trust enough of their defense, in my opinion. Like if you look at their defense, they're still like even after the coaching change, like they're still pretty freaking stacked, man. Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner, they got some other dudes on this team on that side of the ball that are still pretty good as well. To me, it's all about the offensive side. Is Connor Weigman going to be ready as the quarterback? And then they recently had some running back injuries pop up. I mean, who's the can't remember. They had
Reuben Owens.
yeah, Reuben Owens, man. Yeah, he was just lightning in a bottle coming out of high school. Like this dude was going to be awesome, and him being done for the season, that really sucks. Still got some really good guys in the trenches. That they have on the offensive line and defensive line. Will Le'Veon Moss be able to help out in the run game? I picked him in fantasy for that specific reason. He's one of the only guys left in town. He might get some yards. But Notre Dame, man, if there's one thing I know, Marcus Freeman's going to have the defense right. And they have a lot of returners, a lot of you guys that are graduating. Like I said, they've been there a hot minute, and he's been there the whole time. Then they go and get Riley Leonard in the portal, who I'm a big fan of out of Duke. I think he's a great quarterback. They also got Bo Collins at wide receiver from Clemson. I think he's pretty good. They got some good guys and a lot of returners. And, there's another thing you got to know about Notre Dame. They're going to have some good big uglies. Them big uglies up front, they're going to be solid on that offensive line. They're always, that's one thing, it's a steady thing with Notre Dame. They always got a good offensive line. And I feel like we're going to see more of the same. I just don't know if I can buy into the question marks on A&M. I got to go with what I know, and that's the consistency that Notre Dame brings me. I'm going to go with Notre Dame here on this one. Get Notre Dame with points. I feel like that's pretty safe, man. I like it, even in the hostile environment.
So back-to-back games, I've got to team up against both of you guys. So give me A&M, and just off the offensive line stuff you were just saying, that's one of the reasons I'm picking A&M. Look, Notre Dame lost Joe Alton, Blake Fisher to the NFL. Their starter at left tackle, who was supposed to be really good, is out for the season. So they are starting a true freshman on the road in College Station game one against a really good defensive line.
Yeah.
That to me, that's the reason to me this line has gone up, because it was a pick 'em like 2 weeks ago, and now it's A&M -3. I am interested to see how A&M looks on offense. Like there's some question marks I have there. I think Elko's an excellent defensive coach, and they still do have talent. Like I know A&M gets overrated a little bit at times, and Jimbo couldn't really take advantage of the talent they had. But like defensively, they really have a ton of talent. The question marks for me on Notre Dame, like I don't even care about their defense. Their defense is really good. Like they have a really, really good defense. Like Xavier Watts is a first-round pick at safety. Benjamin Morrison's a first-round pick at corner. Like they have an excellent secondary. To me, it's about the passing game. Like as good, I think Riley Leonard is good. He is very inconsistent as a passer. Like he's a very good running threat, which is he got hurt last year. So I'm interested to see how he's coming off of an injury last year. And their receivers, to me, are a question mark because what's one of the things we've talked about for Clemson over the past few years is their receivers are just not that great. Like Bo Collins, I've heard how talented he is. I've never seen it before, so I don't know about that. So I think it's going to be a lower scoring game.
It definitely will. I'll take the under.
Yeah, like I think the home field advantage and A&M's defense, and I think they're going to have an advantage against Notre Dame's offensive line this game. Give me A&M in this game. But again, the confidence level's kind of iffy on this one as well. Just I do think Notre Dame's a talented team.
You very well could be right, man. You very well could be right. So no arguments here from me. All right, that leads us to our last game, man. Of course, we had to end it here with UGA. UGA at number 1 in the preseason, rankings going against number 14 Clemson. UGA coming in as a 13-point favorite here. And, I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. I guess I'll kick this thing off, though, first. From what I've been hearing with the Clemson side of things, there's been some struggles on the offensive line. they're really down in Klubnik going into this. As much hype as Klubnik had coming out of high school, right now there is a lot of pessimism going on from the Clemson side of things as far as what to expect from him this year. I know that they have a few guys that we should be aware of. I mean, Phil Maffa, he's a guy and I'm not by any means comparing him to Derrick Henry, but he is the kind of running back like Derrick Henry where he needs the quantity of carries in order to reach what you need from him. I feel like that's just the kind of running back he is, and he's decent. He's not bad. Antonio Williams, he's the main thing we got to kind of watch out for. I feel like at wide receiver, he's the speedster. He's the one that can kind of burn us if we play with it. Like I said, offensive line, there's some issues there. They do have some good guys on the defensive side of the ball, but we'll have to see. I mean, Barrett Carter is on this team, right?
Yeah, he is.
There he is right there. Okay, I finally seen him. Barrett Carter's freaking awesome. I remember watching him in high school, watched him live going against Jones County, and I was trying to get him to go to Georgia the whole entire time. I loved him. I love him. I think he's awesome. And, Peter Woods is still a good one. He's still young to be, coming in and starting. TJ Parker, same thing. They're pretty young up front. But at the end of the day, we got to look at what Georgia's coming in with. They are going to be down. I think from what I'm hearing, they're going to be without Trevor Etienne. It's going to be riding on and Roderick Robinson. Roderick Robinson's dealing with turf toe. Etienne with the alcohol driving thing. Even though they were dismissed, he still did drink a beer or whatever, and he got in the car. So it is what it is. Roderick Robinson dealing with a turf toe. So it's going to be down to Branson Robinson. Here's the name to watch for this game. Nate Frazier. Nate Frazier's going to get about 8 to 10. I'm telling you what, true freshman coming out of California. That's the name I'm hearing. That is the name that is starting to stick out a lot from camp. This kid right here, we're thinking this is going to be a similar showing, a similar debut, you could say, as Nick Chubb had. Where when he came in as a freshman, his first game, this kid's been lighting it up. He is going to be the real deal. This kid's going to get at least 8 to 10 touches in this game. We're going to see what he can do with him. Cash Jones will be worked in. Interested to see what Dominic Lovett, Colby Young, Dylan Bell can do. The line is going to be awesome. I'm just telling you right now, this is probably the best offensive line we've had. They got about 4 day 2 picks on this line. Outside of the center, we're going to see how the center does this year. I think he's going to be pretty solid, though. But it's going to be great. Defensive side of the ball, we're going to have to see how some of the DBs do, that being like Julian Humphrey or Daniel Harris at one of the corners, Jonah Aguero coming in at star, the opposite safety of Malachi Starks, whoever that'll be, we're going to see. It's probably going to be Dan Jackson. And then can the defensive line get pressure? And I think with where they moved Michael Williams, he's going to be able to get more pressure. They're going to be using Damon Wilson a lot more this year. We got guys starting to step up. And I think we're going to be ready to go for this game. And I feel pretty good about it. As the weeks have been drawing up, I've been starting to think this is going to be a lot more closer to the UGA Oregon opener from a couple years ago. I think it's going to be more similar to that than it is anything. I don't see Clemson keeping this one close. I got Georgia winning this one handily. I'm not going to say they're going to win by 40 or 50 or anything like that, but they're definitely going to cover that 13.5. That's my thoughts. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, good point, Tyler. I actually think Georgia is actually going to cover this as well. It is going to be interesting to see a lot. That's my biggest concern is the defensive line. Last year, we were a good overall team. Obviously, we were ranked number 1 for the whole season, but we saw our flaw. We knew our flaw was what? We couldn't get pressure towards on the quarterback. We sucked at getting sacks. We sucked at getting pressure on the quarterback. We had a lot of guys able to sit back there and take their time and, pick us apart. I don't know if that's going to be I don't know necessarily have we improved on that all the way through. Hopefully we have. But I feel like that's one of the biggest pieces that I feel like for this upcoming season. And I just don't think Clemson just have enough, weight in their butt to be able to withstand Georgia just playing at their peak. So the running game is definitely going to be there. I'm excited to see how Beck. I know Beck is a favorite or one of the favorites to win Heisman.
They're trying to push that this year, so you're going to see some stuff with him.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sold on that one yet, but I'm not saying he don't deserve it, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Milroe actually getting it as surprisingly as that is. But I would like to see
he's going to put up some numbers.
He's going to put up some numbers for sure. But yeah, I'm excited to see the new revamped Georgia, baby. I'm excited to see how we come back. after having a really good season last year. Obviously, we didn't get what we wanted, but we was a really good team last year, man. And 4 points away from potentially being right back in the national championship again, obviously in the playoffs. But we were a really good team, man. And I'm excited to see what this team is able to bring to the table this upcoming season.
All right, Jackson.
Lay the points. I think this game is going to get ugly. I want to ask y'all this as Georgia guys. If Clemson were to keep this close and win, how do they do it? Like I've been just trying to come up with what that looks like because I don't know. That's I guess turnovers, like Georgia just turns it over a bunch.
Yeah, it would be.
I will say this about Clemson. I think their defense could be excellent. I really do think they've got some high-level guys.
They got some really high-level guys on the defensive line. You're correct.
I'm not a big Cade Klubnik fan. I think he's below average.
This is not the matchup for young, promising defensive linemen. I'm just telling you right now, this isn't like the game for them to really shine, in my opinion. Like they're really going to have to play.
It's not just promise. I do think Clemson's legit on the defense. I don't think it's just a talent. Like, they were good last year. Like Peter Woods was legitimately good last year. Barrett Carter, like I think he might be the best player in the ACC. Like he's really good. Their secondary, they lost a couple of pieces. You know, Nate Wiggins to the NFL, Andrew Makuba transferred to Texas. So like they've lost some guys. I don't think they have difference makers at receiver. I think Moffa's fine. I don't think he changes the game. Like I think he's a fine ACC running back. Their offensive line. I think
there's a couple holes on it. I think they had an injury sometime this offseason.
Now, from things I've heard and read, they think this is the best offensive line they've had in a little bit. You know, Matt Luke is their O-line coach, and I think he is a good offensive line coach.
I heard there's a guy they brought in to be the starter, and he just has not won it yet. Like the
maybe not. I do think it's very good, but I just don't know how Clemson's going to score on Georgia. I just don't know how to do it.
Here's how they win this game if they do win it. It has to be a similar style brand of offensive play calling that we saw in the SEC championship game where we just kept the other team in it with how we ended up kind of just the pattern of what we called. I feel like that it would have to play into Clemson's favor. Obviously, the turnovers would help them out. And them being able to somehow dominate the line of scrimmage, I think that would be how it happened. But I just don't see it happening. This, like I said, this is not the matchup for that defensive line to shine. You got, dude, like the whole offensive line is pretty good, and we're gonna be rotating guys in. Like you got Micah Morris, who he's gonna be rotating in at guard behind Ratledge and Fairchild. That's just stupid. Like that is just like dumb. Like with how awesome he is as an offensive lineman to just be rotating in. You got Monroe Freeling who's going to be rotating in at right tackle behind Xavier Truss. Like there's just and we got guys that are going crazy like in camp right now. Jamal Merriweather, a former 3-star guy from Brunswick. Like this kid is just he is like pushing folks around. It's crazy. So we're going to be rotating dudes in. I'm not saying he's going to play anything meaningful, but those other two I mentioned, they will come in this game. We'll be able to keep fresh people. Will they be able to match that? At the end of the day, the depth is going to be something that plays into this. And I just, we'll get a good first punch from them, while everybody's fresh, while we have a scripted first drive. Like I would not be shocked if they score on the first drive. They're probably going to pick on the opposite corner of Dalen Everett, should that be Daniel Harris or Julian Humphrey. They're probably going to try to pick on Dan Jackson. That's exactly what we expect. But that's the holes right now. They're going to have to kind of look at those and then try to establish the run as well. And I fully expect that.
I think they win comfortably. So.
Yeah, so I feel the same way. Well, hey, gone an hour and 30 minutes here. Anything else you guys want to hit on here real quick before we break this thing down?
No, man, I think it's going to be a really good. I'm excited for college football to be back. The week after, we have freaking NFL. Brother, I ain't gonna lie to you. Brother is trying to find somebody to go with. Trying to find somebody to go to the Clemson Georgia game. So yeah, it's been.
Are you trying to go?
I am trying to go. I have nothing.
Man. If you go, holler at me, man. I want to know the inside stuff while you're there.
He's gonna watch it. I know a lot of people say they're watching from home, which I am excited. But it's been a minute since I've been to like an NFL game or a college game, besides UTC. But it's been a minute since I've been to a Georgia game actually. So I said I definitely perfect timing right after my fight. I'm looking to try to find a game to go to. enjoy myself. Because right when I get back, I'm going to Vegas with my teammate Trevor Peake. He fights in 2 weeks. So I'm going to Vegas. I come back that same day, the following day, and that day in Atlanta, guess what?
Steelers.
NFL open season, the Steelers play the Falcons. So I'm like,
man.
I gotta find a game to go to around here,
Yeah,
either that one or the Georgia Clemson game. So, but man, I'm excited. It's football season. I am so pumped. Perfect timing. Let my body rest, sit back, kick back, and watch football. Let's go.
Jackson, last things from you.
I'm just glad football's back. Like, it was so good to have it back yesterday, even though it was kind of basically an appetizer, I guess you could say. And then we've got interesting games.
Good appetizer.
Thursday, yeah, it was good. Good games Thursday. Temple, Oklahoma on Friday. That's whatever. But then, really good games, I think, from start to finish, or at least intriguing games. And then you got USC, LSU Sunday. Then I guess we all got to see what Florida State looks like again when they play next Monday. So it's going to be an interesting opening week. It's the best time of the year. Just super, super excited it's back.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, any plugs for you, Jackson? Where they can read your material at?
Georgia Tech on SI, Atlanta Hawks on SI if you're an NBA fan. I know nobody cares about the NBA right now, but just if you do,
not at the moment,
that's where you can find me.
Ricochet. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you out there for listening. Thank you for all of y'all that tuned into the live stream and participated in that way. We had a good bit of interaction today, so that was awesome. If you're out there listening to podcast, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, anywhere podcasts are located. If you want to support the show, just give us a follow on social medias, and you can also click the Linktree link in the description of this in your podcast area, and you can support us in a multitude of ways. Thanks again for listening, and as always, we'll see you guys next time.